And she's done a lot of work around that we can be very proud of. Patricia's commitment to creating more equitable communities has served as firm ground for her 20 years of nonprofit executive leadership in different organizations such as Methodist Healthcare Ministries and NALCAP, the National Association for Latino Community Asset Builders. And actually, that's where Patricia and I did our first work together. And I just want to say thank you, because Patricia started a program at NALCAP that continues today and is very successful. And it's for Latino young leaders, mid-career Latinos serving in nonprofits and working in communities throughout the United States. And it's a wonderful program, and thank you, Patricia, for getting that started for us. But Patricia has also traveled to developing countries to continue her study for women's leadership in micro-enterprise and community development in these different communities. I want to say that I just admire your drive, Patricia. You speak out when you need to speak out, and sometimes in very, very tough situations. Y te admiro mucho, de seguro. And so I want to ask Patricia to come up, but I also want to end by saying she's the proud mom of little Carito right here. Join me in welcoming Patricia.
Well, no one told me that I was just gonna cry like for the first 10 minutes. I can't even explain to you all the feelings I have right now. I first want to send my sincere love to Michelle, who I was working on the presentation with, and I had the opportunity to connect with you, and I was looking forward to it, but I look forward to the next time. What energy? I don't even know how to begin, but I'll attempt. Okay? I want to start by just thanking everyone for working and planning this conference, whether you're a board member or a symposium, whether you're a board member or a planning committee member. This work is so, so important. I have to admit to you that I'm a little humble, but I'm also a little nervous. I am somebody, as Carol was describing, that has my head down doing the work every single day. I don't really ever take the time to pick up my head and talk about the work. And this really forced me to slow down and to reflect on what is the reason that I actually get up every day and think about equity and have the very difficult conversations with people who do not want me to speak or be there. And so I'm just grateful to Angela for the invitation. I've known Angela for a long time, and I'm just really grateful. I ask your grace as I fumble through today. I have planned something, but you know, when you plan something, it probably doesn't work as you have planned. So just give me a little bit of grace. Move to the next slide. And I've also never used Canva before. And so if this completely messes up, it's because I try to be cool and I'm really not. Let me tell you a little bit about what I was hoping for our time together. I don't really believe that there's anything that I'm here to teach. I believe that I stand with each of you doing the work of social justice. I'm just here to share my story in the hopes that part of that story connects with yours and maybe challenges you a little bit to think of that story differently or to remember that story. So there's a couple of things I'm hoping to accomplish. One is to ask you to be a little bit engaged with me at the beginning And so I have been accused of being a little mandona. I don't know if it's true, but I've heard from other people who I don't know whether they should be trusted or not, but I've heard that. But I want to ask you to pause on a couple of things, to reflect with me on a couple of things. And then I want to tell you a little bit about my story and how I feel that shows up every day with my leadership. And I want to conclude with a little bit of a challenge. Next slide, please. Please eat, because if anybody knows me well, I'm a foodie. I like to eat, so you're not offending me to eat. I'd like you though to close your eyes for a second, and the mandona piece will come out if I see your eyes. Close your eyes for a second and think about what comes to mind when I say leadership con corazón, or leadership with corazón. What or who is the image that comes to mind? Immediately when you think of someone leading with corazón, who is that? Picture them. Bring them into the image. What is it about them that makes you think that they lead with corazón? Well, I'd like to have you have your eyes closed for the rest of this presentation. I probably should ask you to open them now. I want to invite a few of you to share with us who came to mind and a little bit about why, but as I said, I'm a little mandona. I want to see if you can introduce yourself, your name, and who are you bringing with you to the room. So for me, I'm the daughter of Laura Garcia Mitchell. I am the daughter of Leonard Mejia, and I am the granddaughter of Ascension. You'll know who I think about in a second. If you could introduce yourself that way and then tell me who you thought about and why. So rather than being mandona now, I'm going to give people the opportunity for their own agency. Would somebody like to share? Who did you think about?
I'm Richard Martinez, and francamente, the first thing that came to my mind was mi jefita and my mother. And the reason is, growing up in San Antonio, you know how hot it gets, ¿verdad? So I was probably around 9, maybe 10 years old, and playing outside with a bunch of my friends. And all of a sudden, said, "Ahorita vengo." I ran inside, and I was going to grab an ice cream, un helado from the freezer. So I went to grab the ice cream, and I was running back outside to play with my friends. Y de repente, out of nowhere, boom, una mano me agarra. "Where are you going? ¿A dónde vas?" "Pues afuera a jugar con mis amigos." "How many ice creams do you have in your hand?" "Pues nomás uno, para mí." And she said, "You're not leaving unless you eat it here or take this quarter and go buy it for everybody. Because it's not about you. It's not about you." And so that's what came to my mind right away. That was her heart speaking to me and telling me that I couldn't be selfish as I moved forward with life.
Maybe someone else like to share.
Oh, hi everybody. My name's Erika Alcocer. I'm here thankful to my parents, David and Teresa Alcocer, on this earth. They patiently forced me onto this earth, 10 years of family planning. So I'm very here willingly, willed into this earth. But someone I want to recognize and I brought into this space was my tia Angelita. She was a volunteer buena gente at Esperanza Peace and Justice Center. She passed 2 years ago from cancer, but she's the person who always taught me to be my creative self and to fuel that fire and offer it to everybody else and to ignite everyone else's creative fire. Because along with doing social justice work, there's so much beauty in the art, and all of us have that capability. Thank you.
I think we have, is there another? Red, do you want to go?
Hello, my name is Red Rojas, and brought to this earth by Monica Rojas and Jose Juan Rojas. And when I close my eyes and we think about leadership de corazón, I do think and want to call in my amiga Maria Santibanez. They've been like one of the biggest inspirations for me when it comes to leadership and it comes to just community work, right? They work with corazón harm reduction, so caring for our houseless relatives on the streets who may use drugs, and they're with the polio vaccine as well. And all of their work in social justice, change, and like advocacy. They're just a powerful advocate for our gente and our people, and I just aspire to have, to be able to lead the corazón like them. So I just wanted to call on their name and their voice and energies. Thank you.
I appreciate you for sharing and just for taking the time to bring them into the room, even if you didn't speak out loud, that you thought of them and you brought them. Next slide, please. I told you that I wanted to share a little bit of my story. This is where the emotions might get to me a little bit, get the best of me. Yesterday, if you were here at the opening, Teresa Menendez-Meyer said something that, we just work and work and work, and then someone said, oh, you've done a lot. And I never see myself that way, right? But if I read the bio, I could do a little bit of things. I haven't thought about it. So this part is really important for me to be grounded in all of who I am. So I'm a little tejanita. There's a reason why I wear boots. I think very clearly about what I'm going to wear all the time. And usually for a conference, I would never wear jeans. But today I wanted to show you my boots. Those are my tejanita roots. These are actually the boots, the gold boots of my mother. So these have danced on a lot of things. My mom won all kinds of dancing awards. Don't expect the same results as I wear them, but she did it. I'm from Corpus, so a few of you all I heard introduce yourself, working in Corpus or working in Taft. So that's, I lived in Odom for a little bit. That's my picture with Selena, if you know. She was in a museum, but I still pretend that it was just her and I hanging out. But I stand on the shoulders of many, many people. But these two are the ones I think about the most, or really I should say. My mom is in the middle. That's Laurita. To the right of her is Ama Laura. That is a family name. There are many people in my family named Laura. And on the left is Ascensión, also known as Grandma Susie. And I think about the journey that they had as well. My mom didn't get to finish high school. She didn't have a formal education in that sense. I was raised primarily by my mother on $493 a month. I say that because it shapes every single thing that I think about, and especially in philanthropy, which we'll get to in a bit. I'm grounded in my faith. So don't think of that like oppressive Catholic church. That's not what I resonate with. I grew up with these really progressive nuns, that the ones that they refused to wear the habits. And they called me to look at Jesus as a radical. And that's how I center myself. And as mentioned earlier, I'm the mom of that little carito who I very much willed into this world. Each of those things I think about are how I view the world and have the privilege of doing the work that I'm doing now. I was, on the next slide, I was a little bit worried as I shared with you guys, because I don't see myself as a teacher. I don't spend time thinking about this. I see myself working alongside you all. But I have to share my journey and how it's taken its ups and downs. Because I was the first and continue to be the first in my family for a lot of things. Going to college, name it, I'm probably the first in my family. because of that, and because I've been accused of also being very petty, I spend a lot of time thinking, reading books. I didn't know how to navigate that world when I got to college. My dad just dropped me off, and then I kind of tried to figure it out. And when I did that, I didn't really necessarily know the power of the connection of my roots. I actually tried to disconnect myself from it, to be really honest. Because I thought that's how you navigate it, especially when I became a staff member, when I actually got out of college and I was trying to navigate a system. I thought I needed the world hurdles. But there was a moment when I started to think about, hey, I'm sitting here reading all this shit. These books about leadership from gurus. When really, all of those things my mama taught me. And she taught me in a way that was much more profound than any of those dedicated or decided experts. Because she navigated a world that was not made for her, and she was extremely successful at it. I think about, as I began to move into boardrooms, I didn't know that until a little bit later. There was mentors that helped me to see that. One of them who I completely adore is in the room, and to completely embarrass him is Mr. Andrew Hernandez. He was, I'm glad I caught him chewing, that's the best feeling ever. But what he did for me and continues to do for me is to remind me that I already have it because of this lived experience. When I get nervous and I'm getting ready to present anywhere between a $15 million and a $30 million budget, just says, you got this, why are you worried about it? I'm grateful to him. I want to tell you a little bit of story, some more stories. Let me go into the next slide. All these things, rush to my head, connecting the power of my roots. But then I thought, if I had to make them like little consejos, what would they be? One of them is this story about using the present moment to create the future. I'm sure you're going to immediately think of someone when I start to share this. I told you I grew up on $493 a month. I know that because every time I asked for something, my mom repeated it. No PS right here, keep saying the same thing. But we had a little car that was similar to this, but it was breaking down. My mom started to notice, and she said, I've got to figure out how to get a new car. So she thought of a lot of different ways, and then she says, I got it. I have a friend from high school named Sammy who owns a junkyard. Everybody buys their cars at junkyards, right? So we pull up to the junkyard, and she says, walks in, she immediately begins to draw a relationship with him. And she starts to say, hey, you remember this in high school, this? She spends a good 20 minutes connecting. And then she delivers it. She says, Sammy, I saw this little blue car on the outside, and it says $8,000, but I don't have that money. But what I do have is $2,000. Will you take that? I do not need that. Like, no way am I going to do that. So then she begins to lay out the connection. She's like, I'm a single mom. I don't have the money. It's the right thing. My daughter is a straight A student. I promise that if you give it, you're helping to support her. She's going to do good things for the community. My son is this and this and this. Sorry, Laurita, I couldn't. So we drove away. Every day, like clockwork, at the exact same time, my mom was bugging the shit out of him. Saying the exact same story. Sammy, I know you can do it. I know you can do it. I can't, Laurita, there's no way I'm gonna lose. She said, you're not losing. You're giving to what my daughter and my son will do. A little bit of pressure there, just saying. I feel like Lisa from Encanto, but anyways. My mom, like clockwork, would pick me up from school. And one day she wasn't there. So I was like, I better walk home. So I started walking home. And I'm just not thinking about it. I was a cool third grader, just kind of walking home. And all of a sudden I hear, beep, beep. I look, I was like, I don't know that. I do know that. That's my mom. In that little blue Geo Metro that she got for $6,000 less than what he asked for. Beep, beep. Come on, get in the car. That's so new to us. It was all gross and everything, but hey, it was cool. But I think about that now, and the connection that I have is, how do I do that now? Well, anybody who knows me, I will bug the shit out of you until I get what I want. The board members at different things know that I will repeat the same data every single day until there is a shift that is made in their mind. I might shift the way that I'm saying the data, but the data is the data, and at some point I show up to Carol and go, beep, beep. It's delivered. We changed everything about the grant making after years of beep, beep. Just asking. Next slide, please. One next. The other is my mom can connect with anybody. My mom, growing up with my mom, we grew up on how much? $493 a month. So anytime I needed something new, we would go to the thrift store. The mall was not an option, the thrift store was. So I know the smell. As soon as I say thrift store, I can smell the mothballs. I can see the color coordination. My mom would instantly start to make connection with the person next to her. She didn't know who they were. Within 2 minutes, she knew everything about them. Not just like, what their name was. She knew if they were being abused. She knew if their children were good or they were having trouble in school. And not only that, if the son was next door and the mama just said that she was struggling with him, she would sit with him and say, Mijito, your mom is trying so hard. You can do better. I believe in you. And I remember thinking to myself, that poor guy's thinking, who the hell is this lady telling me anything? I don't even know her. But I have to believe that she made a shift in his mind. If a woman was being abused, she had a pamphlet in her purse that she was willing to share. And I think about that now as kind of like channeling my inner comadre, right? To building that system of sharing what you know, listening intently to people that are next to you. One of the examples I like to give is about a job I used to have. My boss and I are completely different. Everything about us is different. And I think that was a good thing. But one of the approaches that we had as we were trying to build this national organization was to have me interview people first. I had the privilege of interviewing Miss Carol. And as I did, then I would send him the folks that I thought were the finalists, and then he would interview them. And then we would sit and talk. The difference of what I learned from the conversation and what he learned from the conversation there was no comparison. I asked questions, what drives you to this work? What is the relationship that you have with community? How do you define community engagement? He asked, where did you get your degree? What other jobs have you had? Both of them extremely important. But the value that I have with my mom is I know how to build that connection and that relationship and know what drives people. And you can then recruit them into helping to drive your agenda forward as well. On the next slide, I'm kind of proud of myself that I'm playing this off like I know what I'm doing. Can you switch it to the next slide, please? The other thing that I shared with you that she picks conversations with anybody, we would be at breakfast. How often did you eat at home? So if you wonder about my cholesterol level, it's extremely high because we never eat at home. Every day before school, we would go to the taqueria and eat breakfast. And my mom would shoot the stuff with anybody. But sometimes I felt like she woke up a little bit extra feisty, and she would look for the wetters in the room. And she would start a conversation, where are you from? You have a ranch. Oh, my family has a ranch. Where is that ranch at? And then he would start to tell the story of his ranch. before I knew it, my mom was telling him about the Texas Rangers that stole her family's land. This is like 7:15 in the morning. And he saw the man like trying to eat his taco as fast as he could. And I think about that now, and I think about whether she really woke up feisty or not, that she had the willingness, the intention to have a conversation that was with someone that she knew was completely different from her. And it allowed her to frame the story different every single time. I've been pushing some interesting shifts within philanthropy at the local level and with us. And one of the things I was challenged by is somebody sharing with me, Patricia, I don't know why you think we should do racial equity work. It means that something's going to happen to my family that has worked very hard. And as I sat and listened and I struggled, really because you kind of just want to shut down at that moment, what I did was I was able to hear what his fear was. And then I was able to shift the conversation, and the next time I was going to deliver the exact same conversation, I listened and framed it around his fear in a way that a little bit lifted that fear, and to say that there's still space for you. And I don't think I would have done that not knowing that lesson from my mom. The other thing on the next slide, as you can imagine, my mom had no problem laying out the facts. I don't know if that Geo Metro was malfunctioned because it was from the junkyard or it just really drove fast. But my mom got pulled over pretty frequently. And every time that my brother and I were in the back seat, well actually whoever wasn't in the back seat wanted to be in the back seat if we were getting pulled over. And the reason is because immediately when we saw the lights come on, we knew exactly what was going to happen. My mom was going to immediately make connection. Hi, Nicole. I'm so sorry, did I do something wrong? And then she would start to lay out the facts. I'm a single mom. I don't have the money for this ticket. My daughter makes straight A's. Have you heard that before? My son, he's not as smart voice, but I hope my brother hears that. I really do. But he plays in the band. And she was getting this officer to believe in our story and to connect it to his own. By the time I knew it, my mom was getting, not only calling him Nicole, the guy's like body position, everything was completely different. He was offering her his cell phone number. Yes, Laura, whenever you need anything, you just call me. What the heck just happened? We were getting pulled over. And I think about that now. You know, I think about the experiences I've had. When I was at NowCab, I had the opportunity to go in front of the Secretary of HUD. I walked in the room, I was probably maybe a whole 27 years old. I walked into the room of the Secretary of HUD. And I remember shaking in my boots, I didn't know what the heck I was going to say, but it was a room full of people. And I remember first connecting with them. Everybody was like, hi, Mr. Secretary, and being very formal. And I said, what drove you to this work? And there was a different connection. So I used that skill then. But then the next time, I was able to lay out the facts about the Bolognas. The reason that we were there was to draw attention to the stuff that's happening in the Bolognas and to demand money for infrastructure. And it's the exact same thing my mom does. Building a connection that was connected, and then all of a sudden laying out the facts. The facts are the same. Next slide, please. This is one that I've struggled with a whole bunch. My mom, when I was little, this is a picture of Yvette. Yvette is a very badass attorney at Oasis. But when I first started, I think because I have that Catholic upbringing, I really thought that I could convince people to do the work of justice by the moral obligation. So I spent a lot of energy and a lot of, I don't know, just wasted energy now that I think about it, trying to, if I say the right thing, you believe in Jesus, right? You gotta know that that's not what he was asking you to do. But something shifted for me. When I was little, my mom, we lived in between two different neighborhoods, an okay neighborhood and a not so okay financially neighborhood. If my mom went to the H-E-B, which is a grocery store if you're not from here, and she saw poor quality avocados at the less wealthy H-E-B, she would get that avocado. She would walk right to this manager's office and say, I want to know why when I come to this H-E-B, this avocado is bad. If I go to the H-E-B 2 blocks that way, it's the best produce I've ever seen. And I think about that now. She just was asking him to change the rules. There's no reason why there had to be. But for me, I think about a time that I was at NowCab. There was the last crisis. It was 2008, and the economy had tanked, and it was the single time in the nation's history where Latinos were losing all of the accumulated wealth that they had had because it had been given bad loans. We walked into the HUD office and we asked for a change in the application. One change in the application would have allowed millions of dollars to be channeled into the Latino community. The way that it was set up is that federal funds cannot go to a nonprofit unless they can prove themselves, that they have a big enough book. Well, you know, if you're a small, growing Latino organization, you don't have that. But what we asked them to do is do one simple thing. Allow a collective application where one who can prove their muster, you can channel all the dollars to it. What we did by that one little change that I know of, I could be wrong, I don't follow federal dollars as well as I should, we were able to gain the single largest investment ever in the history of the United States to go to Latino communities. I think we asked for 170 million, ended up being 143 million to get homes back into the hands of those who had lost it. It was one change. The point of all of this story is I think about what Yvette and other wonderful advocates are doing. I don't spend time anymore trying to convince people. If they don't know that I'm important because I'm brown, me vale. I don't want to change your heart. I gotta leave that up to God. But what I will do in a millisecond is change all the rules that I have control over. And that sometimes is a little offensive. So you gotta do it on the Escondida, and then you deal with the thing afterwards. We can talk about, but because this is being Facebook Live, I cannot tell you all of the details of which I have done. But I just think, before I move on to the next slide, I just think about that. Spending the time of just changing the rules that aren't made for us. Don't try to see if they can change your opinion because it doesn't really matter. They're going to have some kind of creator experience before that happens. Next slide, please. I think I'm almost done. You know, one of the things that my mom always said, and I'm sure I heard Richard say it yesterday, dime con quién andas y le diré apenas. I started a PhD and I'm a PhD dropout, but that was the name of my dissertation. I'm a dropout. I'm standing before you, I'm Patricia Mejia, and I'm a dropout. But you know, I think now of how the only way to sustain this work is to surround yourself with people who love you and who will challenge you to do better. When I saw my lovely querida Delia walk in the room, she and so many others challenge me. They don't just support me, they challenge me. And I think that my mom, I knew. My mom didn't let me hang out with whoever I wanted to. That was not an option. Because she believed in that. And I think about that now in my own leadership. On the next slide. I think about now you know, there's so many stories, and I hope I haven't bored you yet. I'm almost done. But there's so many stories that my mom said that same story. I'm a single parent. We only have $493 a month. Can you give us this tire? I don't have the money. As I stand before you, I literally believe that I'm literally here because Sammy. And the next Sammy, because believe me, Sammy was not the only person my mom loved. But I think I have to figure out how to use my life to fulfill what she was promising. Because remember, it wasn't her just asking me, or asking Sammy to give her the car. She was telling him she's going to do good things. I don't know if Sammy is still alive. I don't know if the priest that gave us food when we didn't have any is still alive. I don't know if the mother who gave me uniforms because my mom couldn't pay for them is still alive. I don't know if the man who brought us food every other Friday because we didn't have enough money for food is still alive. I don't know if the woman who was my neighbor, who bought me school supplies every year, is still alive. But I know that my mama made a promise. And I literally think about that every day. But I don't have the luxury. I have to fulfill that promise that I promised. On the next slide, I'm almost done, I promise. Something that Andy says to me often, we are the most privileged generation. Things are completely good. Still, we see all the things that are not equitable. But if you think about it, Andy reminds me all the time, you get paid to do the work of justice. I'm like, oh, I guess I should probably stop crying. Because I do get a paycheck. It's a pretty nice paycheck. So if we're the most privileged generation with the most access to education, the most access to wealth, the most access, there's no reason why we shouldn't be doing it, but to do it differently, to do it rooted with that strength, to not to start off in the same way that I had. It wasn't Benna. I wasn't embarrassed. It was that I didn't know that power. I didn't know that what I already knew because my mom told it to me was really what I needed. Now when I think about it and I walk into the room, I do what Andy says to me all the time. You act like you know more than anybody in the room, because you do. And it's not to be arrogant. It's that each of our life's journeys sets us up that way. Those struggles have prepared you to walk into whatever room and request whatever demand, because you stand on that. You know, it's overused to say that you stand on the shoulders. You stand on the pain. You stand on the agony to get you to this room. That's my mom making tamales for Carlos' class. Just say that. Next slide. The reason I thought about wearing the boots and I try to wear them as often as I can until they fall apart is for me, and then whatever is the same for you that you have of your madrecita or you have of your abuela, whatever you have that she's given you or he's given you, to wear those lessons and then to make them your own. If you go to the next slide. I can't dance like them, but I can do other things. But the difference is also, I don't want to sit here and romanticize my relationship with my mom, because I'll be honest, she called me this morning and she was real mad at me because I didn't return her call yesterday because I was at the reception here. So let's be very real, that's very true. But what I would do differently, because I believe about all those sacrifices that she made for me, is to do it with joy. Richard and Carol and I have a training partner that I know that Sylvia Puente also knows Troy Harden, and he talks about black joy, and that there's a whole academic section of work on it. I don't know anything about it, but what I do know is I like the concept. I want to have that for us, is a brown joy. That when I think about what I learned from my little carito, and whether you have a child or not, you don't have to. You could just sit at a H-E-B and watch them, at a grocery store and watch them. Everything she finds joy in. If you look at these pictures, like literally, it's everything. It could be a caterpillar that has horns, and she's going to tell you how wonderful that caterpillar is. So I think about, for me, I still want to struggle, I still want to do this. But I want and invite you to do that with cariño for yourself. I can't imagine that our parents, that our ancestors have gone through all of this for us to work and work and work and work for justice and never know or feel that in ourselves. It's not just about taking time to, it's to just live with joy. I think that might be the last slide. Somehow figure out your equivalent of this carito for yourself. Carito walks out sporting this stuff like without any problem. We went to a very nice restaurant with her sporting the bad girl outfit. I don't know, if I had to leave you with anything, it's all of that power that we have. All of that grace and love that we have, all of those lessons that were gifted to us. If you can just place yourself in whatever that woman, if you want to make a Chicano man, whatever works for you, but to walk into every meeting, every whatever, with that kind of joy, with that kind of belief in yourself. That's just my hope for you and my hope for myself too, because I don't always do it. Thank you so, so very much.